So on number 23, we're solving equations. This is just a review from way back when. We need to know how to simplify each side before trying to solve. So on number 23, we definitely don't even have enough space to do it here. I want to zoom in as close as I can, see if I can squeeze it in. 3 times 4, that's going to be a 12x. 3 times 4 is going to be a plus 12. Bring down the equal sign. Let's take a look at the right side of this equation. And if I distribute 2 times 5x, that's 10x. And 2 times positive 9, that's positive 18. And there's also a minus 12 way at the end. So let me put that minus 12 right here way at the end. So we have this equation. We just need to continue simplifying. On the right side, we could still add the 18 minus 12. That'll give us a 6. So if I wanted to, I could just scratch that out and put a minus 6 at the very end. It's probably better to rewrite the whole thing. So yeah, I said negative 6. It should be a positive 6. So let me rewrite. On the right side, we're going to have 10x plus 6. 10x plus 6. So we're going to subtract 10x on both sides, minus 10x here, minus 10x over here. You're going to have 2x plus 12 equals 6. And we're going to have to subtract 12 now. Subtract, like I said, I've totally run out of space. I want to rewrite my equation right here on the right side. We're going to have 2x equals negative 6, which means x equals negative 3. That's just a good old multi-step equation with variables on both sides that we had to solve. That was 23. Number 24, find the product. We have to write that twice. Okay, so let's write it twice. And then we distribute. We say 7r times 7r, that's 49r squared. So 7r times 7r is 49r squared. 7r times negative 6 is negative 42r. And then negative 6 times 7r is another negative 42r. And then negative 6 times negative 6 is a positive 36. So now we could actually combine the middle terms to give us our final answer. Let me write it right here. 49r squared minus 84r plus 36. $25. Is there anything? What should I do on number 25? Of course, I want to factor so I can split and solve, but what should I do first? Pull out the GCF, right? What is a GCF? 2. So if I pull out a 2, what's going to be left on the inside of my parentheses? 6x squared minus 7x plus 2. Now, of course, because this is an equation equals 0, if it were just an expression, if it didn't have the equal 0, I'd have to keep that 2 there. But because it's an equation, I could do anything I want to an equation, like divide it by 2. As long as what I do to one side, I do it to the other side, which is still going to be 0 on the right side. So by factoring out the GCF and then dividing by that value, we have a simpler equation, 6x squared minus 7x plus 2 equals 0, of course. And now at this point, since there's nothing else to factor, we are going to have to do the multi-step process to be able to change it to 4 terms to be able to factor by grouping. Should I explain that? So step 1 is a times c. What's a times c? That's 12. A times c is 12, guys. Step 2, make a list of the multiples of 12 that combine together to give you the middle value b. Make a list. So those are all the possible ways of getting 12. 1 times 12, 2 times 6, or 3 times 4. Out of those 3 pairs of numbers, which pair gives you a negative 7? The 3 and the 4 give you a 7, which means that you need to make both of those numbers change sign. So it's a negative 3 and a negative 4 that we want. And now for step 3 is to rewrite your original quadratic equation, but make it 4 terms. Make the 3 terms turn to 4 by replacing these 2 numbers with this negative 7. Those 2 numbers go in place of the negative 7. So there's my entire equation, but I left space between it. The negative 7 became negative 3 minus 4, of course, with x's. And now we're going to factor by grouping. What could I pull out from the first group? a 3x, right? I could pull out a 3x. If I pull out a 3x, what's going to be left on the inside? 2x minus 1. Okay, now what could I pull out of the second group? Let me put parentheses here. What could I pull out of the second group? A negative 2. So if I pull out a negative 2, what will I have left on the inside there? And luckily, we have the same exact binomial in the first group and the second group, so we could pull out the 2x minus 1 out in the front. So I'm actually going to, I don't have any space. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the 2x minus 1 and I'm going to write it right here. If I pull out the 2x minus 1 and I put it out here in the front, what's going to be left? A 3x and also that minus 2. Whoa, shouldn't have circled that. Also that minus 2 is going to go right there. That's what's left also. And then after that you want to split them and solve. So the zero product property says something times something equals 0. The first something could be 0. Or the second something could also be equal to 0. And now all we have to do is solve both equations. So on the left side I'm going to add 1 to both sides. That'll give us a new equation, 2x equals 1. Final step would be to divide by 2, x equals 1/2. And now we're going to solve the other one. We're going to add 2 to both sides. We're going to have a new equation that says 3x equals 2. My final step would be to divide both sides by 3, giving us a final answer of x equals 2/3. So this one was one of the hardest types of questions that you'll see on the test tomorrow. Is this a perfect square quadratic trinomial? Well, do we have a perfect square term in the front? Do we have a perfect square term in the back? Now, if we put it into our answer format by square rooting both of them, I'm going to have the square root of 4y squared, that's 2y. The square root of 25 is 5. 2y, 5. Now let's think about the signs and see if it's possible. In other words, 5 times 5, that'll give us 25, right? But I need the middle term to be negative. So I'm hoping that a minus 5 and a minus 5 will work, because a negative 5 times a negative 5 gives me 25. But hopefully when we do the actual math, our middle term does become negative 20y. So we already know that 2y times 2y is 4y squared. 2y times negative 5 is negative 10y. Negative 5 times 2y is another negative 10y. Negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. So do the middle terms actually combine together to give me a negative 20y? Yes. So is it factorable? Absolutely. This is my factored form. This was just to double check it, and we saw that the middle term really did give me the negative 20 that I had in the original. So I know that this is the correct factored form. So this is the factored form. But of course, the multiple choice test, it might have it, since it's the same exact binomial written twice, it might have it like this, 2y minus 5 to the second power. That's also a perfectly fine factored form answer. So either the binomial written twice, or you could write it as the binomial squared, which is the same thing as the binomial written twice. So on the back side, we also have more practice where the a value is not 1. That's very challenging. There's only a couple of them on tomorrow's test. But let's take a look at number 35. It's pretty interesting. What do I do first? What's the first thing you're supposed to always try to do? Factor out the GCF. So the question is, what is 147 divisible by 3? With the calculator, you'll see that it is. So that means you could pull out the GCF of 3, and you're going to have p squared minus 49 left over. And now you could look at the inside, which is p squared minus 49. Ignore the 3 for a little while. And this is a difference of 2 squares, which means that you'll be able to do the shortcut. P right here, p right there. The square root of 49 is 7. And 1 has to be plus, 1 has to be minus, because the middle term cancels out. Or because 7 times negative 7 is negative 49. And what about that original GCF you pulled out? Just put it right in front of your answer. And this is your completely factored form for number 35. Okay guys, so I needed to log on to Edmodo so you could actually see this answer. I mean, not answer, but answers. All the answers are on Edmodo. It's the third page of this practice test. So you have your answer key here with every single answer of the practice test. There's 35 questions. I hope you guys study this. If you understand every question right here, you're going to ace the test tomorrow. Remember, the test tomorrow is only 25 questions and it's multiple choice.